We have an update on 2026 offensive lineman and Texas target Zaden Crimpen. Cody, it's looking like if Texas is going to be in a fight for this dude, it's going to be with LSU.
That feels right. We've talked about it on the show a
Feels
couple
right.
times about LSU, and I'd be lying, like I said yesterday or the day before that, if I didn't say like I put the future cast in for Krempin to LSU, and he visited there. And Sam Spiegelman from the Rivals national analyst had an update, and he said LSU moves into the lead with touted Rivals 250 tackle Zaden Crimpen. Krempin said LSU was the team to beat for sure. Now, here's my question to you, Alex. I'm going to go right back to you. When you pull up Zaden Krempen's page, and we've talked about this numerous times because this guy's been, I mean, he's got all the Sky Miles. He's got the most Sky Miles amongst any player in this class, guaranteed, even if he's driven to a couple of these places. But he's visited Texas, according to Rivals, 7 times. He's visited A&M, according to Rivals, 5 times. Michigan, 4. LSU, 3. Baylor, 4 times. Oklahoma, 3 times. SMU, he's been there 8 times. He goes everywhere, man. So like when he goes somewhere and you hear this, like, oh, they're the team to beat. I mean, we've heard they're the team to beat more than once. We've heard Texas leads for this guy. We've heard, A&M thinks they're sitting in a good spot. I got an update from the A&M site that they, one guy thinks they sit in a decent spot. Another guy says, yeah, they're third. They're not even close, A&M. So, do you read much into this, him saying it's the leader, or do you just say, well, with the cash that's being thrown around, it might just be this week's news?
I just, I always think that that coming off of these visits, I always talk about how players can kind of be prisoners of the moment with how over the top they are with their wording and how it was the best trip. And, um, you can just look at the whole Richard Wesley thing
Yeah,
at
that's
Oregon.
another one.
You can just get caught up in stuff. And um, I here's my deal though. I think this. I mean, we followed Crippen pretty closely because Jason had reported just last week in the War Room that he heard from a source close to the program that Texas feels good about its standing with Zaden Crimpen, with John Turntine, and with Felix Ojo. But it was the feeling was that they weren't going to get all 3 of them, right? So if it you know that's kind of the mentality that I've had with him. So we've kept a really close eye on this dude. We've like the reason we joke about all his visits is because we've been going into every weekend. We're like we take tally of on the site. There's the article that Jason heads up, but that a lot of the other staff collaborates on. It's like, all right, who's going where, what's going on, like what's coming up this weekend, and there's always an update on Krempin. It's like, golly, does he take a weekend off? And I've never heard him come out of one where he says so definitively that a team is the leader for sure. So
Yeah.
I think I have to take it a little bit seriously, and it makes me wonder. Okay, there are these other guys, and it makes you wonder, what's the guy from who plays offense and defense? Is that Lamar Brown?
Lamar Brown, yes.
Yeah, you wonder if it's like players like Aaron Thomas, these kinds of players, what is it that Texas has been doing with sort of expanding its reach with these guys? I know that we can argue about whether Lamar Brown plays offense or defense. I think he fancies himself a defensive player, but there are certainly other ways that Texas could go here besides Krempin, especially if you're talking about, dude, Felix Ojo is going to be super expensive, right? Um, I it feels to me we've just heard stuff, and you might want to maybe you could um, expand on this. It feels like Krempin is starting to kind of feel his oats too, and maybe he's going to want a lot of money as well. Money for visits, stuff like this. I've heard kind of whispers of all that. Um, there is I've personally heard that from a source on the recruiting side that the guy's, he's starting to kind of feel himself a little bit. If Ojo's going to be as expensive as he seems like he's going to be, I'm sure turn time is going to cost a pretty penny. A guy that for most of all last year, people talked about it's like, okay, this year it's Mike Fasusi, next year just get ready for John Turntime. Yeah,
Yeah.
feels like his stock. Still think he's great, but it feels like his stock is cool to just maybe the tiniest bit, just with the concerns about his size, him looking really skinny, weighing 270 pounds, all this stuff. Um, with Krempin, there's questions too about his size, and I think that, dude, I think one. I remember seeing the picture. I think it was a picture of Kremp. Am I just dreaming this, or was there a picture on X of him with Will Campbell? Will
I think
Campbell
that
at
was one of his, I mean, again, taking a lot of visits, but I think that was one of his visits to LSU. Maybe I think that might have been a game last year.
okay. I couldn't get out of my head. It's like that's a kind of good recruiting pitch for Krempin to say like, look, we had this guy that undersized, maybe some shorter arm stuff like that. This dude was just taken fourth overall in the NFL draft. Yeah, they look about the same size. So thankfully, I wasn't dreaming it, because it would be creepy to have dreams about Zaden Crimpen posing in a picture there with Will Campbell. But LSU's had a good pitch, and you felt like it since the very beginning. I think to me where my mind goes is, okay, well, if Jason has sources thinking they can get 2 out of 3 of Turntine, Crippen, and Ojo, does that mean that Texas is, if this thing sticks, how hard is Texas going to keep going after the guy? I mean,
That's the thing. You can get to a point, and you can get to a point where it's like, man, this is just, I mean, prime example would be the Shador thing, right? It's just like, it's just not worth the headache. Or like the excuse you heard from the Quinn Ewers thing, him falling in the 7th round. It's like, well, he's going to come in here, and this is not the same example, but this is an example of how it can be viewed from the inside of a team is, well, this guy's got too big of an ego or too big of a thought to be a clipboard holder and be a 4th round pick where he should be. He's got too much clout, so he falls to the 7th round. This could be a situation where, if this kid's asking for money, if this kid thinks he's here, but really, like, again, he thinks he's one of the best tackles in the country, but maybe people view him as one of the better interior offensive linemen, better centers. The money's a different conversation there. You might think you're $1 million guy, but if you're a center interior guy, the cap for that might be, 500,000. If you're asking for, what I'm saying? Like, it can turn a team off for sure. I mean, that's just the name of it. It might sound stupid. It might sound, old school, but there's a lot of old school dudes that operate in a lot of these front offices, both, in the NFL and college. So if you if you upset the apple cart in the wrong room, there's a million fish in the high school recruiting sea. And when you're Texas and you're LSU and you're A&M, you can go any direction you really please and attack it. And there's always going to be another guy up. But we of course love Zaden Crimpen. He's going to visit a bunch of different places. He's going to visit A&M this weekend. His rivals page says he's going to also visit SMU. It says A&M on the 5th, SMU on the 6th. When I was on, which would not shock me, in the least. I mean, he's probably got a private jet at this point. Sarcasm. But I was over on the A&M side. And I was doing some stuff for Behind the Enemy Lines this week. This morning it went up, and I found it interesting that so there was 2 columns posted over on Aggie Yell. And I know everyone says Aggie Yell, you should use use Tex Ags, use this. So on Friday, there's a column that goes up on Aggie Yell, and it's talking about next week's official visitors. So they didn't have any official visitors this weekend, so there wasn't a ton on Aggie Yell outside of like baseball and softball talk. But the note about Krempin was, who's the major competition? It's Texas and LSU. And this is a quote from Mark Passwaters. He said, in talking about Zaden Crimpen, where A&M stands, Krempin has not been very outspoken about his recruitment, but I do think he's a Texas lean at this point. A&M has work to do. I personally think they're 3rd for him, so to say this visit is massive for the Aggies is not an understatement. Now, Alex, the next day on the same site, there was a column posted from Landon Rosso from Aggie Yell. he says, and this whole column is basically, kind of putting out a prediction or a chance of the player signing with A&M. This is not, glass half empty predictions either. It doesn't feel like a lot of it's like 85% for some guys, things like this. So for turn time, first off, it's at 40%. For a guy like Tyon King, linebacker from Port Arthur, 85%. For Zaden Crimpen, the exact next day after you read what I just read off from Mark Passwaters, Rosso said prediction for Zaden Crimpen, 45% chance to land. He says Krempin is tough, in-state offensive lineman with a high motor. This visit could go a long way towards locking down his commitment. 45%. The next day after that last column from Passwater said it's a 2-horse race and it's not, Aggies aren't really in this thing. So kind of checks out the one side. The other side, 45%. I'm like, all right, I don't know if I'm reading too much into that. But just for reference, right next to turn time was 40% to A&M. Krempin is 45% to A&M, for example.
Oh, I guess a lot can change from one day to the next in recruiting.
Or lack of communication.
Certainly, a lot has changed in my life from yesterday till today because I'm out of tequila and I'm going to need to head over to Specs.
Texans know for selection and lower prices, it all starts at Specs. No matter what's on the menu, we've got you covered. With all your favorites on tap, you'll bring home the win. Special occasion? Flirt responsibly. Boots on, drinks up. The fun starts here.
Shout Specs, low priced, amazing. Here's to you.
All right. So thanks so much to Specs and to all our great sponsors here, like Texas Beef Traders. Make sure and go check them out. Get 10% off whenever you go visit them. Go see Darren. Go see Shay. Just go into Texas Beef Traders. Or if you can't make it in, call them. They will bring it to your house. It's just the absolute best. And of course, we can't get out of here without thanking our friends over at Poncho Outdoors as well. Make sure and check out the Big Daddy sale right now for Father's Day. Get 2 shirts and get either 2 hats or 2 shirts or a shirt and a hat for free. Cody, whenever it said, like in the update from Spiegelman about Krempin, it said for one, so Spiegelman's changed his future cast from Texas to LSU. That's telling to me. But the other thing is what he said is, I'm down to 4 schools, and this weekend LSU made a great impression on me and my family. They have a clearly defined plan for me. They were very transparent about how hard it will be playing in the SEC, and they think I'll be a perfect fit. I wonder what the clearly defined plan is. Did they tell him he's going to play tackle like Will Campbell?
And they think I'll be a perfect fit was one of the things that was also in the column. So I don't know.
Well, it's wild. It's wild that there's a clearly defined plan for a guy who I'm not sure exactly how he's going to develop. Maybe he'll be able to develop into being a tackle.
I mean, so Will Campbell, when Will Campbell came out of college or came out of high school, was listed at, let's see here, 6'5", 300. So Krempin 6'5", 275, according to Rivals. Campbell added 23 pounds, I think, in his time there from 300 up to, what was his combine weight? I think it was like 323, 319. So
Krempin looks as tall. As what was Will Campbell's height at the combine?
6'5" and 7/8.
Was he? So it was just the 32-inch arms was all right. So that's why it seems so small. Krempin's as tall as him.
Well, in that picture, he's not technically.
He's not?
But that's still 6'5". Like
he's 6'5".
7/8, he's 6'5".
Yeah. How tall is homeboy next to him?
5'10".
I think he's 5'9" or so. Yeah.
One of these things is not the same.
Yeah. I don't know. Like I think that the clearly defined plan is they probably told him he's gonna play tackle. And if he's down to 4 schools, who's the 4 school? Is it Ohio State?
Well, I mean, SMU, he's visiting. So his officials right now, he had LSU last weekend. He's got A&M this weekend. SMU's also listed here. Texas next weekend, and then Michigan is listed on the 20th of June.
So maybe it's SMU is his fourth.
Or Michigan.
What
The SMU one might be Fugaze. It's listed on here on Rivals, but he's been to SMU like more than he's been anywhere
he's
else.
been there 9 times.
I mean,
9 times. What movie is that from? 9
times.
I forgot what that's from. Someone will know in the
Ferris
comments.
Bueller?
Yeah. I think he was tardy 9 times.
9 times.
So final thoughts. Anything anything you want to get off your chest about Krempin and this latest development? Do you think it's meaningful? I think it's meaningful.
I think it's meaningful, and I'll just say for those that have been in the chat the last couple of weeks telling me that I'm a anti-Texan, I'm a this, I'm a that, because I said that there was a chance that Ojo, Turntine, and Krempin weren't going to end up at Texas. Can you smell me? And the famous words of Adam Pac-Man Jones, can you smell me? Because I warned you.
I still think Texas gets Ojo and Turntine. All right. Thanks to everybody so much for being here. Thanks to Poncho Outdoors. Thanks to Specs. Thanks, of course, to Texas Beef Traders, our great sponsors, of course. MyPerfectFranchise.net. Our good friend, Andy Ludicky. You can find Cody on X at Cody Carpentier. I'm at Alex Dunlap NFL. We're here basically every night giving you these updates here on Orange Bloods Live. It is football with friends. We thank you for being here. And we say God bless you. We hope you have a great rest of your night. For Cody, I'm Alex. We're done.